Welcome to Stage 1, Workbook, Inspiration and Play. There's lots of ways to be inspired to create your designs for lino cuts. These are all objects that I've picked up at the local beach here. There's lots of different things in here, urchins, shells, even bits of driftwood, bits of sponge. Nature can be a huge inspiration and you can work at translating them into designs. Another source of inspiration is other artists or other artists working with the same technique. It need not necessarily be the same subject matter. So this was a wonderful book that somebody in the Netherlands found for me. It's by Claude Flight, who's considered by many to be one of the greatest teachers of lino cut in the last century. This was his original book, and he taught very many fine lino cutters. Another great book for particularly printing on fabric is by Jane Dunnewold. This book has been used by many people and it's got lots of tips and ideas for printing on fabric, not only with lino cuts and stamps but with many other pieces of equipment. This is a recent book by Diane Fogwell. She's more of a printmaker on paper, so it's directed at that kind of audience, but again, a very accomplished printmaker with lots of ideas and tips in this book. There are many other books. This one's a handbook of printmaking. It covers many different techniques, not only lino. This is a book of different artists who've used lino cut. It's actually produced by the company who makes the lino silk cut. So it's all lino cuts. Again, it's lots of different artists using this particular book. And here's a quite old book from the lecturers from RMIT in the 1980s and 90s. It covers some ideas of lino cut but also many other ways of printing on fabric. So these are all kind of inspiration books that I look through but not necessarily use in the design process. So my design process is usually based on observation, like the natural objects themselves, and photos that I've taken. So this one is a design book about the sea, because at the moment I'm playing around with the sea, and that's largely because I live not far from a rather nice beach, and also I went to Aotearoa Island, which is in East Timor, and I went to a fabulous aquarium in La Rochelle in France last year and took many photos there. And so this turtle was one of the photos that I took. You can see the photo here and me interpreting that photo. This is to try and get an effect of water. So I'm really more exploring different ideas, different weeds. I love seahorses, so I'm playing around with the shape of seahorses. The aquarium that we visited had a wonderful little colony of seahorses, which I took photos of, but they were moving a little bit fast. Again, I'm looking at different weeds and things I encountered in the aquarium and I'm drawing them. This was a fish in the aquarium, so this was the fish which inspired this lino cut. I'm playing around with the idea of sea urchins and trying to get the spine effect of the sea urchins and shells. And here I've done my trial prints on newsprint, so I've used them into my workbook because it gives me ideas for colours when I start printing on the fabric. Here I've done a print on fabric inspired by a photo I took on Aotearoa Island beach, and I'm drawing different shells and shapes. Again, seahorses. Here is another artist's work of seahorses, and I've referenced her name and where she's from for my own information, but I've only looked at her seahorses for inspiration. Shells that I've drawn. This one is a photo I took of the beach and I wanted to get the crab shape, so I'm playing around with the graphic details of how a crab looks. The colouring is totally different, but I'm looking at this to see how I make my lino cuts. Again, playing around with seaweed and looking at it in different arrangements on a space, and looking at seahorses again. I think seahorses are my favourite. So this is my workbook and how I translate inspirations. I will see you in stage 2, materials and tools.